dari luar, karena linknya kita share keluar juga. Karena ini belum mulai, bagi yang teman-teman yang di Zoom boleh di-share juga linknya ke teman-teman yang lain supaya bisa bergabung. Jadi pagi ini kita berkumpul untuk apa kita bilang ya, refresh iya, update iya, latihan iya. Sebenarnya alat ini sudah ada, model ini sudah ada dari dulu. Kita sudah punya, tapi kita nggak pernah pakai. Itu satu ya. Yang kedua, acara hari ini workshop ya, kita workshop lah ya. Today's workshop actually 3 days workshop. Aslinya ini pelatihan 3 hari, tapi kita compress into 3 hours workshop. Jadi we will discuss most important things in CPR ya. Kalau bingung tanya, kenapa tanya. Buat teman-teman yang di IGD mungkin kalau dalam beberapa bulan saya ngomel soal ini dingkliknya mana, backboardnya mana, nanti dijelasin di sini kenapa ya. Terus silakan dok, duduk aja, masuk. Buat teman-teman yang lain mungkin sudah, oh ini ada alat ini nih, tapi nggak tahu ini alat bisa secanggih apa, nanti kita jelaskan juga di situ. Ya, santai aja, akan ada materi, akan ada hands-on, akan ada diskusi, manfaatkan ya. Celetuk-nyeletuk aja nggak apa-apa, relax. Karena aslinya pelatihan ini aslinya kita bisa sambil apa sih sambil megang-megang, berdiri nggak kelihatan, sambil ya. Jadi nggak usah seperti kita seminar, nggak. Keluarin semua, ini kenapa sih ya. Kalau ada yang mau volunteer nggak usah nunggu ditunjuk, naik aja langsung. Karena akan kita pakai. Ya, this workshop actually will be implemented in our daily practice ya. Jadi ini bukan mengawang-awang, karena ini, kayak tadi aja kita sebelum kesini RJP dulu tuh di merah ya. Udah pemanasan ya. Latihan. Oke, today our speaker trainer is Dr. Jimmy Zott from Zoll Medical. He's clinical manager for Asia Pacific for emergency medicine also. So today's workshop will deliver in English ya.
Gue tidur ngantuk banget.
Tadi kan saya ada pertanyaan mau ditranslate juga nggak? Saya rasa nanti 3 jam bisa jadi 6 jam kalau translate juga. Jadi kita harap teman-teman kita nggak akan translate, dan bahasa CPR ini saya rasa bahasa universal ya, apalagi buat teman-teman dokter dan perawat. Hanya dengan melihat simbol, angka-angka kita langsung ngeh ini maksudnya apa. Tapi kalau ada istilah-istilah baru, new term, kita bisa tanya. Contoh, ya, coach, CPR coach, RC, rapid cycle, deliberate practice. Jadi pelatihan yang diulang-ulang dengan sengaja. Jadi pelatihan itu harusnya terus supaya menjadi muscle memory. Oke? Without further ado, I will handle this microphone to Dr. Zimi. The floor is yours.
Hello and good morning. Selamat pagi semua. Saya dari Malaysia. So kita jiran-jiran ya. Okay, so today's lecture I will deliver in English as per what Dr. Seto say, right? So if I could just show the slides. Sorry, just give us a moment. Yeah, this one. Okay. Slide that jadi. Manual kah? Oh, I have a clicker. Okay.
Mau bertanya pakai mikrofon atau enggak ya?
Okay. Hey. Sorry, some technical issues, but don't worry, we are all okay. So today's session, right, it will be 3 hours, but I guarantee you, right, after today's session, you will learn a lot of new things, new concept, right? And all these things I actually learned from the US, right? And especially from Johns Hopkins, which I will introduce to you, right? So before I begin, can I have a show of hands? How many doctors are there in the room today? Wow, good, good. And the rest, nurses? Gerard, wow, good. Any other professions in the room? Just doctor and nurses. Good. All right. So my name is Jimmy. I'm from Malaysia. And my current position is a clinical marketing manager. But before I joined Zoll, I'm actually a doctor as well. I graduated from the Russia, and I also trained in emergency medicine, right? So today, this is how our course schedule will look like. I will start off with some basic lecture, right, on science of CPR, and then we'll come to the device. I'll teach you how to use this properly on technology overview, and I'll also share best practices and CPR tips and tricks on how do you actually perform ambulance bagging, right? And how do you actually perform a proper technique on doing CPR? Okay, this is some of the things I will talk about. And then we'll have a little game in what we call a CPR benchmarking. So I will have some volunteers come up to this place and we'll start performing CPR. And your performance, I'll put it on the screen, right? And we can see your performance result. And then I would introduce a new concept, which is what we call a CPR coach. If any of you attended the ACLS training, you probably see this CPR coach module appear before, but I will go in depth on what is this all about. And then we will have some kind of a simulation, a mock code, a real scenario. You see there's a patient bed here, there's a mannequin, there's a e-trolley, right? And there's a defibrillator that's all available, right? Then we will run hands-on together. And the last one is what we call a performance data debriefing. So it's not just about doing CPR, right? Then once you finish with CPR, then you just go off. No, it's also important for us to look back and also look at our performance results, right? This is what we call debriefing, right? So if any questions, feel free to ask anytime. And kalau you nak cakap dalam bahasa pun, saya boleh cuba berbahas dalam bahasa, okay? So let's do it. So before I start, I really want to make a disclaimer, right? Because some of the slides actually came from this person here. Her name is Professor Elizabeth Hunt, and she's from Johns Hopkins. So some of the slides that I show is actually from her and also from Johns Hopkins. So I really want to give the credits back to them, right? So Professor Hunt is really my good friend, right? We've met together with Dr. Seto in person, and I really learned a lot from her, and she's very, very inspiring. Okay, so I really like to open up my session with the why. So a lot of times when we go to, attend courses, kita belajar bersama-sama, tapi kita tidak fikir kenapa kita nak belajar pasal benda ni. CPR kan benda yang sangat basic. Senang saja. Why? But why Johns Hopkins and why Professor Elizabeth Hunt so focused into these things that she thinks this is the most important thing if we want to help and save more patients' life. Okay, so this story is actually not from me. This story from Professor Han, and I really want to share with you today. Oh, okay, so this is a patient from Johns Hopkins Children's Hospital. Her name is Reese, right? So in 2014, she was only 7 years old during that time. And she actually suffered a 30% body surface area burns, right? With a severe inhalation injury. So you can see like a poor child, right? With a picture here, right? With all the IVs and all the mechanical ventilation, assisted ventilation with her, right? And the prognosis is actually not very good for this child. And if you look at, the burns is really bad, right? 3rd-degree burns all around, right? Different dates that you can see the progression of the burns. And because of this burn, she actually goes into not once, but 5 times cardiac arrest during this period of time. And if you look at the performance data is actually being recorded during that time in Johns Hopkins that, they're actually doing quite a good job in terms of hitting the targets for CPR, right? But what you want to see here is actually, 5 different time of cardiac arrest and 5 times she got saved by, a high quality performance of the team, right? And you see, once she recovered, right, she's actually quite good in terms of having a full cognitive and full neurological outcomes. Even with the trachea, right, with all the assisted ventilation, she still is able to study, right? And she actually learning from the classmates here, and she's actually have a virtual teacher that she can learn together online. So this is something that is really fascinating, right? And you can see here she's actually progressing really well, right? And when she got discharged from the hospital, you can see like, her leg is being amputated, but she still, have the courage, right, to join school performances, dances. And this is just some of the pictures that you can see here. She's really, even with the trachea, even with the amputated leg, she's really doing well, right? So next slide. Right. So when towards the end of the year, every year we have to do a children review, right? Wow, you look at the grades, it's actually really quite good, right? This shows that she has a really good neurological outcome from all the cardiac arrests that she had, right? And this is the Reese mom. She actually texted Professor Han. She said, "Oh, look at the performance. This is what a quality CPR looks like." Wow, it's interesting. A layperson like Reese's mom knows that, a good quality CPR shows you a really good score like this, something like a Reese performance result in the zoo, in the school, right? So he say, to achieve this, right? So basically say all we have to do is really practice, right? So that it can be perfect, right? Because practice makes perfect. So when Reese heard about this, and she said, "Yeah, just like the cow shows, right? So in America, they have this competition. They talk about cow shows, and yeah, exactly like cow shows, right?" So just these little stories that I hope, to begin with today's session, and I really hope to inspire you on why we want to learn about this and why we are doing this in the first place. Good? Okay, right. So this is a really quick lecture, deep dive into American Heart Association guidelines. So the guidelines actually come up with a new version like every 5 years. But of course, every year they come up with a new consensus. But every 5 years they have the big major consensus that will come out. So I refer this back to the 2020 guidelines, which is about 3 years back. So this is some of the science that I want to share with you. Okay. So there's a lot of words here, don't worry. I just want you to focus on the two highlighted yellow numbers. The first one is 10.5%, another one is 26.7%. So the 10. It's not too good, right? But the in-hospital cardiac arrest is like 26.7%. So that means I have one patient out of 4 patients that will survive an in-hospital cardiac arrest. So this is a cardiac arrest registry coming from the US. But what about our region? So I do have something closer to our region, right? So this is a registry coming in from Pan-Asian Resuscitation Outcome Study, PAROS. And in this PAROS study, they talk about 7 countries like Singapore, Malaysia, Japan, Korea, and United Arab Emirates. And during that time, the number of patients is about 66,000 patients, a lot of patients. And they found out that, hey, the overall survival to Okay. Oh, sorry. Okay. So I really like this slide, and I really think this slide is very important because if you look at this, right, the latest guidelines, it talks about, hey, if you want to improve your resuscitation outcomes, you only have to focus on 4 major things only. Simple as that. And these 4 major things is number 1, high quality CPR. Number 2, minimize the CPR interruption. Number 3, continuously monitor your CPR quality, and number 4, early defibrillation. Wow. When I first saw this, I'm very surprised, right? Because this is not something new. This is not something rocket science is difficult to achieve. No, it's just simple 4 things only. But every 5 years, every over and over again, right? They keep emphasizing on this thing. Why? Because there's a huge disparity on a lot of people knows about this, but they're actually not doing it. Some centers, when they do it, they perform very well and they have a very good survival outcome. But most of the time, we really ignore this portion of things, right? And the survival rate becomes, not so ideal. And when we talk about high quality CPR, you probably heard about this, 1,000 times, right? But I just want to show it to you, some of the criteria that is listed in the guidelines. They do have clinical studies and a lot of, proven studies and also scientific research behind this. So let's look at just quickly review some of these high quality CPR guidelines. So number 1 is the depth. He says push hard 5 cm but doesn't exceed 6 cm. Number 2 is fast 100 to 120 times per minute. Allow full chest recoil. Minimize interruption by less than 10 seconds. Compression fraction as high as possible, at least 60%. Avoid excessive ventilation. Adult is 10 breaths per minute. Okay, so first question first is, why do I have all these very specific numbers here? Why does it have to be 6 centimeters? Why not 4 to 6? Why not 4 to 5? Why not 6 to 7? Why must it be 5 to 6 centimeters? The second question I see is like, what does it mean by push fast, 100 or 120 times per minute? Why not 80 to 100? Why not 120 or 140? Why? There's so many whys, right? Why must all this be? And what's interesting is if you look at the slide, you see there's something like class 1, right? Class A, class 1, class 2B, class 2B. So these are actually all all these scientific research come out with guideline recommendations, and the smaller the number, like class 1, I mean, is a very strong recommendation, and then followed by 2A and then class 2B. Okay, so this is a very important slide and also a very important science that I want to share with you. Okay, so what happens during a cardiac arrest is that the heart is actually not pumping, or maybe in the case of ventricular fibrillation is quivering like this, right? So you don't have an adequate perfusion to the body and also to the heart. So what happens is when you start doing CPR, chest compression to the heart, right? You are actually generating certain level of pressure in what they call a coronary perfusion pressure. Okay, so when you do a good CPR and then you generate certain level of coronary perfusion pressure, you see this pressure, if it exceeds 15 and above, our patient have a chance to survive ROSC. But if your CPR quality is really, really poor, right, anything below 15, our patients have no chance to survive. So this study was done and published by Norman Paradis in year 1990, 30 years back, right? Many years ago. But during that time, he also tested, also checked, the people, the healthcare providers that's doing the CPR, and generally they are just doing a coronary perfusion pressure of 12 millimeter mercury only. So that is why during that time, the survival rate is generally quite low. Okay. So this is a very important concept. And because of this Norman Paradis study, it kind of like, influence and inspire a lot of other scientific research after 1990. They focus a lot on how do we ensure that we can generate a coronary perfusion pressure which is more than 15, and it relates to how we perform a high quality CPR. Okay, so next one is the compression rate. We always talk about 100 or 120, right? We talk about this 100 times, but do you know why? What's interesting is this actually also backed by a lot of clinical study, and I actually chose this by Dr. Idris, published in Circulation in 2012. What he realized is that, hey, the survival is the best when you can achieve a chest compression rate between 100 to 125. Wow, interesting. And the same person, right, Idris published this 3 years later, right? He doesn't just look at the survival, he also look at the survival to hospital discharge. And he had the same result, which is the best survival to hospital discharge when you can perform a chest compression rate between 100 to 120. Okay, pretty interesting. Next, let's talk about compression depth. So still actually published this in Circulation 2014. This is a huge resuscitation outcomes consortium study. And during that time, he measured about 9,000 over adult patients, right? And if we look at this, the survival is actually the best or the optimum, somewhere between a chest compression depth of 4 to 5.5 cm. This is interesting. Right, and this is another study quite recently published by Nuco in 2021. And this study looked at 5,000 over out of hospital cardiac arrest patient. And the best outcome, the best probability of survival is actually somewhere between 5 to 6 centimeters, right? You see the survival here, and also probability of having a pulse at is also 5 to 6 centimeters. So these are all these things are actually, being explained by guideline and also backed by all these evidences, right? And we also talk about, do not do CPR more than 6 cm. There's also a clinical study. So you see this study published in 2013 in Resuscitation Journal. They suggest that, hey, if you do anything more than 6 cm, you might have some kind of a iatrogenic injury to the patient. So what kind of iatrogenic injury do you know? Yes, I heard rib fracture. What about any other things that you know? Rib fracture, sternum fracture, what else? Internal bleeding, that's very good. Most common one is the pulmonary hemorrhage, right? Or sometimes pneumothorax. Yeah, that could also happen, right? And if it's a severe condition, you might also affect the heart also. All right, so these are some of the things and why they don't want to put more than 6 cm. So next, I love this topic. They talk about chest wall recoil. Can anybody explain to me what does it mean by full chest recoil? Anybody? Chest wall recoil. Apa tu benda ni chest wall recoil? Yes, don't be shy. Jangan malu-malu. Kita belajar bersama-sama.
Live streaming.
Yes.
Maybe when we perform CPR, like we give time for the thoracic cavity to give time for the dice for the filling, so that when we compress, we need time for, I don't know what it's called.
I hear
Recoil.
something here. Yeah, it's okay. CPP immediately dropped from 23 to 15. Right. So remember the first slide by Norman Paradis say anything below 15, our patients have no chance to survive. Right. So this is a very important concept because when you do a full chest recoil, it affects the feeling of the heart and also affects the coronary perfusion pressure. And it not doesn't just sorry, the clicker, yeah. Can I click? Yeah. Okay. It doesn't just affect the heart, it also affect the mean cerebral perfusion pressure. So almost the same condition that you see, full chest recoil, you have very good cerebral perfusion pressure. And when you get tired a little bit, even at 75%, the cerebral perfusion pressure drop into half. Okay, so this is the next topic I really like a lot. Is you talk about chest compression release velocity. Right, question again. What's the meaning of chest compression release velocity, CCRV? Anybody? Yeah. Have you heard of this term, CCRV? No. Okay. So let me explain to you what is this CCRV. Okay. So full chest recoil, the concept is pretty simple, right? Two phases, compression phase and also release phase. Full chest recoil means during the release phase, you release the hands away from the chest, so they go back to a normal state. That is full chest recoil. But chest compression release velocity, the velocity means speed, kelajuan, how fast we release our hand away from the patient's chest. So instead of doing just a normal like this, right, we actually want to do fast release, right? Because this fast release actually affects the hemodynamics that's going through the heart, right? And it actually affects survival as well. And if you look at the Kovar study in 2015 in Resuscitation Journal, he realized that, hey, when you do a fast release during the release phase of the CPR, you can actually affect the better survival compared to a moderately release and compared to a slow release. So this is a rather new concept and also a rather important one that we should know. Okay, so this is a slide that I drafted and I really like this, is to tell you that when you do CPR, right, when you compress onto the patient, when you compress to the heart, you're actually pushing the blood from the heart to the brain and to the rest of the body. So that is the compression phase. But when you release phase is equally important because when you release, that is when the blood from the brain, from the rest of the body goes to the heart and also generating the coronary perfusion pressure. So instead of doing CPR, just compression, release, think about I'm pushing the blood to the brain and releasing the blood back to the heart, pushing the blood back to the brain and releasing the blood to the heart. So when you do this, think about the brain, the brain and the heart, and the brain and the heart. It maybe can inspire you to do a better performance of CPR, right? So this actually explains the whole hemodynamics of the blood going through the brain and the heart when you're doing a compression and also the release phase. Okay, so let's talk about compression fraction and pre-shock pauses. So question again, anybody know what does it mean by chest compression fraction? You want to try? What is chest compression fraction? Yeah.
Ada yang Bapak Ibu yang mau jawab apa yang dimaksud dengan SIS ya?
Yes.
Ratio.
I can't hear you.
T2 ratio?
No, not that one.
Bukan.
Yeah. So I give you a case scenario. For example, I have a patient that collapsed right now. I do CPR from the start to the end. I perform for 10 minutes, but in between, I stop CPR for pulse check, for defibrillation, for intubation, and total pause time add together is 5 minutes. So what would be my compression fraction in this case? 50%, very good. Yes, I like you. Yes. Correct. So compression fraction is actually the fraction of you doing the CPR versus the fraction of you not doing CPR. And the guidelines is very clear. He said compression fraction needs to be above 60%. Right, so we need to look into what are the things that pause, like for example, pulse check, intubation, all these things are pauses. And we need to minimize this to have a good chest compression fraction, okay? So let's look at the pauses, right? So one of the things that affects the chest compression fraction is actually the pause time. So this is published by Dana Adelson in 2007. She realized that, hey, If you can minimize your pre-shock pause time to less than 10 seconds, I have a very good shock success rate of 94%. And every
Okay, no problem.
at 7 meals per kilo, I would get about 490, right? But a full squeeze of a bag give you a 1005 mils of the tidal volume, right? In fact, we actually need 30% the squeeze of the embryo bag to get about 490 mils of tidal volume only, right? And this one, the last one, the duration, oh, I love this the most. So when you bag, a lot of people have different style of bagging, right? The first style of people bag is like they press, they hold, and release. Another style is very fast. So which one is the correct one? Right? Do you like press, release, press, or is it your like? So which one is the one? So the guideline is very clear. He say the duration is only 1 second. So that means your press and release phase is only about 1 second. So after 30 compressions, you press 1 second, 1 second. Itu sahaja. That's it. Not press and hold and release. No, that's the wrong things or technique of doing it. Right. And what's interesting that this is actually being supported by a lot of clinical study as well. And if you look at this circulation journal by After Header, like almost 30 years back, what he realized is there's two things, the dark brown color and also the red color, right? So the red color is ITP, stands for intrathoracic pressure. Okay, so if you look at the human anatomy, there's the lungs and then there's a heart in between. So when you hyperventilate the patient so much, the lungs actually expand so much and it increases the intrathoracic pressure. And when that happens, the poor heart in between cannot really contract and expand as you like. So what you can see is actually, when you ventilate 12 times per minute and 20 times and 30 times per minute, you're actually increasing the intrathoracic pressure and causing the decrease in the coronary perfusion pressure. And what happens when you do this? So this is not a real human study. This is a swine model study. Is that when you do a good, adequate ventilation, the survival rate is actually very good versus a hyperventilation of 30 times per minute, versus a drastic drop in the 24-hour survival for the swine model. Okay, right. Quantitative capnography and tidal CO2. Anybody use this in resuscitation? No. Right. So to me, as an emergency doctor, I think this is the single most important thing that you should use in patient resuscitation. So this is not from Jimmy, not from Zoe, this is from AJ, right? So he says end-tidal CO2 got 4 major functions. Function number 1, right? Class 1 recommendation of verification of tube placement. Okay, so everybody intubate here in the room? Anybody? Can I raise? Yes. Dr. Septo, anybody else intubate? No. So when intubation, sometimes it's tricky, right? Sometimes we might not go into the trachea, sometimes we go to the esophagus, okay? But if you have the end-tidal CO2, right, and if you intubate correctly, you immediately get the end-tidal CO2 reading. So you know the verification of tube goes into the correct place, right? And the second thing is talking about the detecting return of spontaneous circulation and guiding CPR quality. So for example, I intubate the patient, right? I have a starting end-tidal CO2 reading of 10, 11, and 12. Okay, then I start doing CPR, right? So when you start doing a good CPR, there's actually a circulation and perfusion that is going on. So there's a gas exchange and oxygen and carbon dioxide, right? So when that happens, you see a slow rise of an end-tidal CO2. That's very good. And you can see this chart here, right? This chart here shows that if you deliver a shock to the patient and the end-tidal CO2 suddenly jump from say 25 to 40, you know the patient actually come back to return of spontaneous circulation. So this is one of the things that we don't have to pause and pulse check because we can check already immediately from the end-tidal CO2 reading. Okay. The next thing is the last thing. Yeah, talking about the termination of CPR. So I do not know what is the system of the hospital, but last time when I still practicing, they say, okay, let's do a resus for 30 minutes. 30 minutes, we stop. Okay. But somehow this is not fair to the patient, especially when the patient is very young, right? We might need to have more time for resuscitation. So end-tidal CO2 is actually a very good indicator whether or not you want to stop a resuscitation. Okay. So the next one, this is something that is really good and I really want to share with you. It's what we call the 4 components on improving resuscitation outcomes, right? Tools for improvement. So the first tool they do recommend is using a real-time audio-visual feedback, which is something I will teach you today, and implementing a CPR coach, a new role into the resuscitation team. And the third one is performance data debriefing. And finally, a system-based approach into your resuscitation protocol. So the point number 1, number 2, number 3 is something that we will cover during hands-on and also during the simulation together. Okay. So let's talk about real-time feedback. You've probably seen these defibrillators before. You probably heard about something about the audio-visual feedback, but I just want to show you this is actually a Class 2B recommendation in the guidelines, right? And this is just a study to show you in Arizona, the EMS study, say if you use a real-time audio-visual feedback, the patient have 2.72 times more likely to survive a cardiac arrest outcomes. And this is, I'll just skip this one. Okay, and this one is the CPR coach. So any of you who attend the ACLS course, you will definitely have this textbook showing this picture here. So what he says that in the resuscitation team, you have a team leader, you have a person who is giving the IVIO, you have a person who is doing a CPR, you have a person who is doing the airway airway bagging, You have a person who is doing a recorder, a scribe role, and then a person who is controlling the defibrillator. He says, you can actually integrate the CPR coach role into the person who is controlling the monitor and defibrillator. And this is a quick video, like 2 minutes video, is to show it to you how the CPR coach actually functions in the team. So this video is not from Jimmy, not from Zoe. It's actually a snippet from the AJ ACLS training course. So let's have a look.
The CPR coach is a new role within the resuscitation team, and it's designed to address these difficulties and promote the delivery of high-quality CPR. The presence of a CPR coach allows the team leader to focus on other elements of cardiac arrest care. Whether you are a basic life support provider or an advanced life support provider, the role of CPR coach exists to help you and your team deliver high-quality CPR.
The most effective way to implement the role of a CPR coach is with a real-time audio-visual feedback device. We'll discuss some of the functions of the CPR coach and how they use feedback devices.
First, let's talk about the team layout when using a CPR coach. CPR coaches should stand across from the compressor, always in the compressor's direct line of sight. CPR coaches should also stand next to the CPR feedback display, which is often located on the defibrillator, so that they can effortlessly redirect the compressor's attention to the data provided by the feedback device. Now that the CPR coach is in place, they should verbalize the data from the feedback device, providing corrective and positive feedback, such as push harder or your rate is good.
Great job. You're right on target.
Right. So you can see this video. This person here, this lady, she actually assumes the role of the CPR coach. So she controls the defibrillator shock, right, at the same time, but she's also using the data coming from the dashboard and coach the person who is doing the compression and the ventilation to make sure they're doing a good job hitting the targets, right? So we'll practice this together later on. Okay. And finally, this is debriefing. So you probably heard about debriefing, which is getting in the data, getting everybody, right, after a resuscitation to do a team debriefing. And this is actually a class 2A recommendation from the AHA. And there's actually two types of debriefing that's being suggested from the AHA. It says that, well, type 1 is hot debriefing and another type is cold debriefing. So hot debriefing is something like when we bake a cake from the oven, it's hot, it's nice to eat, right? So hot debriefing happens after a resuscitation attempt. You gather your team together, you take a performance data from the defibrillator, and then you debrief immediately, right? It takes you a little time only. Cold debriefing, on the other hand, you schedule the debriefing later on, right? Maybe next month, maybe next 2 weeks, right? And during this time, you not only gather your own resuscitation team, but you also gather the multidisciplinary team. For example, if this is a pediatric, you can gather the pediatric ICU people, right? You can gather the intensivists, you can gather many other people who are involved in the patient's care, right? So that's the cold debriefing. So this just a quick study and sharing to show it to you that debriefing actually saved life, right? And not just one, but two studies being published in the AHA journal. The first one is by Dana Edelson. The second one is by Heather Wolf for pediatrics. And you can look at Dana Edelson study. So baseline is a team that doesn't go through debriefing. The rapid team is the team that goes through debriefing, and they actually improve the patient survival in terms of ROS. And Heather Wolf doesn't just measure ROS, he also measures ROS, but also patient from ROS to discharge and discharge with a good neurological outcomes. And if you look at the team with a post debriefing, every single parameter is actually better when the team goes through some kind of hot debriefing or cold team debriefing, right? Okay, so I'm just gonna skip this, right? And just tell you some take-home messages. So this is the last slide, okay? So number one, high-quality CPR remains the fundamental to patient survival from cardiac arrest. So this is a very important concept, right? So this year is the year of 2023. We have iPhone, we have TikTok, we have Instagram, we have so many technologies to help us. But what's important to remember is that high quality CPR actually is the basic and the fundamental to affect a patient's survival. That is something that we should remember. And number two, perception offers differs from reality. I like this too, because, as a clinical manager in charge of Asia Pacific, I don't just travel to Indonesia, but I also travel to many, many countries around Asia. When I ask the doctors or nurses, say, hey, what do you think about CPR performance? They say, why are you asking me this kind of question? I've been doing CPR for more than 10 years, right? Maybe longer than you, as in me. Right, say, okay, good. So let's try a CPR benchmarking and I'll show it to you, your result. I said, here, your result. It's like, oh, really? This is my result? Yeah. So this is what I really want to change your mindset today, is that it doesn't mean that you're super experienced, you always do a perfect CPR. No, it's very important that we need to use some kind of tool to help us to achieve the kind of target. And number three is details measure to improve. So this one talk about debriefing, right? And the last thing is, hopefully together after today, you can utilize these 4 tools to help improve the CPR performance. And number 1 is having a real-time CPR feedback. Number 2, a CPR coach in the team. And number 3, debriefing after every case. 4, have a system-based approach in the hospital. Okay, good. So any questions before we go to the next session? Yeah.
Iya, siapa lagi?
Thank you, doctor, for the very interesting presentation.
Thanks.
Yeah, I'm very interested in the real-time CPR monitoring. So, can you clarify how does it work? Like, is it integrated to the defibrillator or is it like a separate monitor? And because we don't know when the patient will be crashing, so is it are we incorporating it to the patient when the patient is crashing, or should we put the tools there when the during the critical care? Like how do the other advanced countries use it in the critical care?
Yeah,
Thank you very much.
so a very good question. So let me just answer you the question on the feedback dashboard that you see. So remember the video? Yeah, coach. That actually the feedback actually comes from the defibrillator screen. So this defibrillator screen is being attached to some kind of a sensor called a CPR sensor here. So this sensor I can actually put on a patient, and then as I perform CPR, it will sense and detect and show it to you, your performance result on the screen. Yeah. So this is the next session, and hands-on, you will come here and I will show it to you, right? And the second thing is about patient, whether or not you're afraid, we'll use the pads or not, right? So there's 2 ways of doing it. Maybe Sharon, you can also give some opinion, right? My colleague behind is Sharon. She's from Singapore, right? So in Malaysia, generally, they will put on the 3-lead ECG, the 3-lead, the normal usual ECG. Yeah. This is the 3-lead one, the ECG. Okay. So that's for cardiac monitoring. Okay. But if you predict the patient is going to an arrest or the patient is, very unstable, you can always switch it into a monitoring using the pads like this together with the 3-lead. So if patient really goes in a collapse, you immediately have the sensor to perform CPR, right? So Sharon, do you want to add on anything from your side? No. Okay, good. I hope that answers your questions. Okay, right. So if no more questions, let's everybody come forward, stand up, exercise, come forward. I'll show it to you what's this. Okay, come around, move around. Okay. All right, so before I begin showing you the defibrillator, I will start asking question first ya. Saya akan tanya soalan dulu ya. So question number 1, what is the function of a defibrillator? Apakah fungsinya defibrillator? Yes.
Untuk mengambilkan elektriknya jantung.
Electric therapy. Good. But half correct. Electric therapy in the defibrillator got 3 types of electric therapy. So what is the 3 type of electric therapy that you know? Okay, tidal version, synchronized, that's 1. Defibrillation, there's 2. One more. Yes, external pacing. Okay. Now my next question is, when do you use defibrillation? In what scenario? VF versus VT. Wow, yeah, student, huh? Okay. How about synchronized cardioversion? Okay, there's a category which is what we call a tachyarrhythmia. Okay, tachyarrhythmia, what is the criteria? Heart rate more than 150 and the patient condition unstable. What is the 5 criteria for patient unstable? Hypertension, altered mental status. No, it's coming. Yes, heart failure, hypertension. Yes, that's very good. And what about external pacing? Barrier arrhythmia, what's the heart rate criteria? Below 50 and patient condition unstable, the same criteria as tachyarrhythmia. Good. So everybody is passed on this one. That's good. Okay. So that is the electrical therapy function that we know. The second group of function, do you know? What else do we use the defibrillator for? Anybody know? Is it just electrical or any other thing that you know? Yes, monitor. So what is the monitor that heart rate? That's one. Huh? ECG, yes, that's very good. Blood pressure, the non-invasive blood pressure, yes. Yes, oxygen saturation, the pulse oximetry, and one more very important one. I just talk about. Feedback later on. There's one more. I say this is something that and tidal CO2. Yes, that's very correct. So these are some of the common things that a defibrillator monitor can use. Okay, so electrical therapy, defibrillation, synchronized cardioversion, and external pacing, monitoring, NIBP, pulse oximetry, heart rate, ECG, and tidal CO2. Okay, so then there's a third group of function if you're using a ZO. Okay, so this third group of function is what we call a CPR technology. Okay, so in this CPR technology, there's 2 things that you can see. First is the CPR feedback. Okay, CPR feedback, when you start performing a CPR, okay, on this sensor here, so this is the pads, yeah, this is the sensor. So this sensor will be placed onto the patient's chest in the center of the sternum in between the nipple lines. You see the cross here? Okay, so when you start performing CPR on this thing, this is actually a motion sensor. It will detect your rate and depth and show it to you on the defibrillator screen. Okay, so that is the first function. So the second function of the defibrillator is what we call a see-through CPR technology. So you know X-ray, right? We see through. So if you use the old defibrillator, okay, you put on the 3-lead ECG on the patient, you start doing CPR. What do you see on the screen? Is it the patient rhythm? No, it's not the patient rhythm. What you see is actually the CPR artifact, which is the wave artifact. But with the see-through technology, you can actually filter off the CPR artifact and look at the patient's underlying rhythm. Yeah, so that is good as a team leader. Why? Because last time I need to say, hey, everybody, stop CPR, stop ventilation. I need to look at the patient rhythm. Oh, okay, shockable rhythm. Please charge the device. Charge. Okay, please fetch shot. It's more than 10 seconds. Yeah, with this see-through technology, you can see, okay, team, it looks like it's a shockable rhythm. Can we charge the device first? Okay, charging, charge ready. Okay, stop CPR, pause, confirm rhythm, shock. This can actually drastically minimize your pause time to the minimum, right? According to the guidelines, it's less than 10 seconds. Okay, good. Yeah, so the next thing I want to show you is this thing here, and also this thing here. So yang benda ini bukan Wi-Fi, bukan Bluetooth ya. Yeah, so you still have to connect this with the this cable here. Okay, you still have to connect. So question is, do you still use this in the hospital? Yeah, okay. So I think this is something that is the pros and cons using the hard pedals versus the soft pedal. Okay, so let me show you if I have a mannequin here. Okay, so if I'm using the hard pedals, okay, the first criteria, of course, you need to differentiate the sternum pads and also the apex, right? Okay, so the sternum and the apex. So the second thing, right, you need to exert a force of 10 to 15 kilograms down to ensure a patient good contact, right? If not, you will get a good contact. But when you have a good patient contact, that's a problem because I am a patient, I'll be very close to the patient and I might risk the shock to myself. So that's the problem with hard pedal. Okay. If I'm using a soft pedals, it's very easy, right? Soft pedals that looks like this. All I have to do is, K-pop style, pace, hands free. K-pop. So then you can shock from the defibrillator. So this is one way that we can use, the reason why we use that. So the second reason is because when we shock the patient, okay, after shock, so what we do? We put it back into the defibrillator. Yeah, then put it back into the defibrillator. So then when a new patient come in, okay, I need to shock again. I think I put it on the patient. So this is a problem because you might have a cross-contamination and infection control. Yeah, so that's not really good. So if you're using the pads, it's very good, right? You stake, you shock the patient come back to life, you remove the pad, you throw it away, right? So there's no problem with the cross-contamination and infection control. Right? So that's the second thing.
The pads here. So the pads is not just like any pads. It is actually a CPR sensor pad. You see all the little part that's in between. So this is actually a CPR sensor. So when I paste the pads onto the
Mikrofon kelihatan di sini. Mikrofon tadi. Karena dia connecting. Dia harus pakai mikrofon. Pegang aja. Sorry. Dipegang aja.
And then this is the sternum pads, and this is the apex. So the placement of the pads will look something like this. Okay. So when you the placement of the so this is the sensor is placed between the in between the nickel lines and the center of the sternum. So this is where you start performing the CPR onto the patient. Like this. Yeah. So you're aiming across using the base of your palm. Okay. So now I'm gonna turn on the device and I show it to you the CPR feedback. Okay. Can I have a volunteer to do CPR? All of you need to stand here. On the screen, you will see something that looks like the pink color dashboard. Yeah. Yeah. So when you start doing CPR on the sensor, the color dashboard will actually appear. So when my sensor guy here start doing CPR, then the pink color dashboard will actually appear on the screen. In this pink color dashboard, you will see four things. Number one is the chest compression. Number two, the chest compression rate, how fast? Not check lagi. Number three, full chest recoil. Shape one call conclusion performance indicator. Okay. Let's start. You cannot see kan dia tak boleh tengok kan. Only we can see. Okay.
Maybe focus.
No.
What's the sensor? Where's the thing? Oh, yeah, no. US
Okay. So you can continue. So
I want the focus. Yeah.
just
If not, they cannot see.
Need to zoom out the bed, right?
Yeah, like down. So that they can see. Now they cannot see the
number four. Still one. So it's need to be one and the third one is the release bar. So when you use a full bar, means it's doing a smooth release. And the last one is what we call a conclusion performance indicator, right? Good for money, stop CPR. Then you see the PPI value will actually shrink and become nothing. Yeah. So they give you the idea of what is the real time CPR.
Yeah, I took already.
So just for
Okay.
I'll teach you later on. Okay, and finally the PPI diamond is it's quite a good configuration. Okay, yeah. Okay, so let me show you the second thing. Okay, so we can just talk about the C2 CPR technology, right? Okay, can I have another volunteer? Yeah. Yes. Another volunteer? Yes. Okay.
What battery? Oh, wait. Oh.
Low battery, yeah. Yeah. Change battery. Yeah.
Pakai kardus ini.
So while we look at the new battery, while we look for the new battery, let me some of the things they actually perform a CPR. Okay, so number one is this, yeah. Or is it like this? I hear you are like this, right? Okay, this is interesting because in 2015, 2010 guidelines, BLS, right? If you take the BLS code, they mention about a hand holding this, okay? But in 2020 guidelines, they completely removed this away from it because the idea here is that it's not about how you hold the hands. It's about hitting the CPR targets, which is the rate, dash, recoil. Okay. So here I'm going to teach you a technique, right, which hits every single target, but also ensuring full catch recoil and a good release velocity. Okay. So this technique is what we call a credit card technique. So let me take out. Let's say I do have so this is credit card. So the credit card technique looks like this. First, okay, the hands holding itself like this or like this. Okay, so the finger here will be attached to the side of the tension chest and it doesn't move, it will stay there. The only thing moving is actually the base here. tracking the target on CPR sensor. So the entire motion will look like this. Okay. And you see that when I lift up my hand, I lift up the hand away from the sensor so that I can swipe.
Kalau di sini nggak ada. Buat ini habis ya. Oh yang itu.
Yeah. So the idea here is to not only hit the targets of the brain sensor, but also movement required because of release away from the vision test, and the release is actually a fast release so that you can swipe like very fast and you hit the release velocity target. So this is something we practice together and practice a lot of this and try to do the very fast side. Okay, so that's one of the solutions. So the next thing is my favorite thing that I do. Okay. So the hand holding of the ambivert is actually pretty universal. Like you do this and like sometimes people have the 2% to like draw. But what's interesting is when you deliver the time. So if you deliver a full squeeze, you are delivering about 1 pound. But attention on that. Okay. So in the Arizona, they actually acknowledge this problem and they teach about mechanics. On one, if you want to deliver the exact about 400 to 560 degrees of area, a full squeeze in the area from a pipe. But that's not a good solution because let's say if I have a 100 in more, so what happens then? So they actually teach us a technique of process. Their teeth are very special and they have a small little hole. So it's what we call a tray finger technique. So instead of a full squeeze from an angle back, using 30%, 1/3 of the angle back, delivering about 560 of time. But that's really okay. So that's the again the trick for you to okay, so the next thing I want to share with you is the what we call the upstroke ventilation. So remember, during the ventilation slide, right? I not only talk about the tidal volume, I also talk about the rate. Okay, so in a non-intubated patient, what is the compression versus ventilation? 30 compression versus ventilation. That is easy, right? So all we have to do is have the person count 1, 2, 3, 4, 39, 30, 1, 2, so like that. But what about the other one? The patient intubated 10 breaths per minute. So 1 breath every 6 seconds. Then I have to take a timer with me like every 6 seconds and have to deliver a squeeze. Like sometimes I'm busy looking around, maybe got Excel, right? And see, oh, I squeeze so fast. So it's really hard to determine, 1 breath every 6 seconds. So there's actually a sharing from Davis, which is a professor from UC San Diego in the US. He actually teach me a method called the upstroke ventilation. So what does it mean? He said, you deliver 1 breath every 10 compression of the CPR during the release phase. Okay, so what will happen is, okay, I will do 10 times. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Squeeze. Okay, they say squeeze during the release phase. Why? Correct, because it's important. If the person is doing the compression, there's actually a passive airflow from the chest to the environment. But during the release phase, you actually have a passive airflow from the environment to the chest. So if you deliver a breath during the compression phase, you actually have a patch of airflow and your effective ventilation is not there. Okay? So what you want to do is actually deliver the breath during the release phase of the CPR, right? And we actually advocate the release phase during the hand CPR. Okay, so now I need 2 volunteers.
Doctor, so you don't pause the CPR?
No, let's say I have a intubation patient. Intubation,
Oh, yes. Okay.
yeah, I intubate the patient.
Emang intubate.
So can I have 2 volunteers? Yes, no, 2 volunteers. Oh. Okay, you will stand here. So your role is to continue to CPR, but you have to count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1. Yes. So your role, okay, so your role is you squeeze during the release phase of the 10 CPR. Okay? Yeah, so let's try this. Yeah. Okay, let's start. Yeah. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's very good. 8, 9, 10. Squeeze 1. Faster 1 second. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Squeeze 1. Yeah, continue. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Squeeze 1, 2. Yes, that's very good. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Don't worry about So you get the concept right on why you want to do this. There's actually a very good science behind. And when you do hand compression, right, it's equivalent to so you release space. If you deliver 1 breath, you will actually hit the target of 1 breath every second. Compressive ventilation. Okay. So before I move on to the next section, any questions so far? I hope you find this interesting.
For the 5 centimeters depth, does it apply to obese patients?
Oh, that's so the guidelines of 5 to 6 centimeters is for general population of adult. But sometimes if you have a very good big size patient, you might need more than 5 to 6 cm depth. That is why you need to use other parameters to help you. For example, the end-tidal CO2. Okay. Yeah.
Do we have like a rough estimate, like if it's above 80, do we need to like push 6, or is there no research for that?
Yeah, so I don't think there's a very accurate research based on how big is the patient and also how deep we. The best prediction I can tell you is by using the end-tidal CO2 if you have, or if you have the arterial line, right, or the central venous pressure which I will teach you later on. That can also help you to predict whether or not your chest compression depth is good enough. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. Yes. Good. Okay. So now, so what I will do is I will select 5 people here and to do CPR on the machine. Okay. So when you do CPR, you have 2 phases. The first phase is you don't look at the machine. Okay. You do CPR. Okay, all of us can see your performance. Okay, maybe not 5, but maybe 3% is enough. Okay, then the second phase is I will switch. Okay, so when you do CPR, you know, oh, okay, if by too fast, I slow down. If too slow, I speed up. Okay, then we look at the performance using the case review. Okay, can I have 3%? Okay, I have 1, 2 more, maybe 1 lady.
Prepare to get the data. Get the CPR data. Sorry. That's it.
These people are all over. So let's start here. So I want to the timer. When I say start, okay, you start CPR on the okay. When I say start, you start doing CPR automatically. Okay, you do for maybe 1 minute. Okay, not okay, ready? 3, 2, 1. Two, one, start. One minute.
What is the name of the app?
It is very clear. Okay, let's scan this. Stop. Okay. Good.
Priority? Priority somewhere. I know he's getting ready, I think.
Ready? 3, 2, 1, start. Oh. Okay. Okay, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Finish. Very good. Okay. Ready? 3, 2, 1, start. Okay, 10 seconds. Okay, so let me just ask the three volunteers. Okay, tadi yang siapa ya? Okay, and yourself, right? So what do you think is your CPR?
Good.
We will find it later. And what about you? What do you think? This all the okay, okay. So now, yeah. So now, what we're gonna do is, I will flip the defibrillator to your side so you can see. Okay. So when you start doing another round of CPR, okay, you have to adjust. Kalau terlalu dalam, you're gonna kurang. Okay. Kalau terlalu laju, you're gonna lambat pelan sikit. Okay. So you can adjust your performance based on the feedback that's shown on the screen. Okay. What do you think those differences? Yes, ma'am. Okay, so are you ready? One more time.
Yeah, I asked the doctor to answer the question.
But this
Do they have it in the hospital? Do you know?
time,
The CPR step X.
okay. What you will do is, when you start doing CPR,
No. Maybe later I ask Priority. So Priority would know. Yeah. Because now I think he busy. Just now I already told him. I told him the question. Yeah. He doesn't. He said, okay. I think he will answer. I told him to answer the question. Yeah. Jimmy. Yeah, you. Oh.
this is continue. Okay, so I'm going to skip. This is good. Wow. Okay.
Perfect.
Continue. 30 seconds.
Yeah. You are the monitor.
Yeah.
That's good. So usually this is a very, very good thing. Look at it. Okay, 3, 2, 1, finish. Okay.
Then he replied, I don't know I don't understand.
For what size?
Okay, that's the perception. Here it is. What is it? Said that. To me. But they doesn't have to have yet. The keyword is ready process to for
Maybe they have the kind of how the comparisons cannot. You keep your card. Yeah. Okay, now client yes got difference. But generally pretty good. Yeah, in terms of number.
I think it's because they are ER.
Yeah.
Nurses, that's why
Yeah.
and they have vacation as like
Yeah.
others like from
Yeah.
which
Not ER, yeah.
CPR, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So we can really see the difference.
Yeah. Yeah. And you can see that she fully released.
Yeah.
So the bar is full,
Full, yeah.
which is good, and the diamond is full, which is good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So whatever. It's not good.
Jimmy, Cam. They don't even have the machine to sync it with each other. Very good. Yeah, because she's doing the compression. So only when she didn't do good compression, then the machine will still advance the things. Otherwise, the machine.
Wouldn't there be like one compression?
No, that is bad.
No, take it from. Okay, so what we're gonna do is we'll put your performance onto the screen so everybody can see. Okay, so okay.
So what did he say?
Kasi use ng pagkakamasin parang oh, because that's is actually disposable parts.
Yeah.
Single
Yeah.
use.
So he's is it a question or
whether it's like
Oh.
do you call that?
this was reusable?
Yeah. Is it considered into the disposables? You don't something like that.
Can you reply?
I think it's not accepted to answer.
Yeah. Yeah, because the pads, the CPR stamp pads is a disposable. Yeah, it's a patient single
Yeah, I
patient
think
use.
it's in the
Yeah. Yeah. Maybe he's reply.
Yeah.
I hope. Yeah. Now it's 10:30. So we started at 9. 9, yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So I just have a big screen that I want to show you. Right. So this is the software what we call case review. Okay. And there's a lot of information here, but don't worry, I will guide you step by step. Okay. So in this case review, will show you a few performance. So the first thing first, the first row, this is what we call a CPR event summary. Right, so this is the point. You see that the CPR period is highlighted in yellow color, and then the pause period is highlighted in gray color, and then there's a loss period highlighted in purple color. So in this entire period, we do CPR, okay, and this period here is that when we pause and also stop the compressor. That's why you see like a pause tag here, right? We do not have a loss period because there's no patient loss here. So, but I just want to show you the next few rows. So the second row is the compression depth, right? So I set the depth is to 5 to, it should be 5 to 6. This one is your account on my phone. Your account. It's okay. Sorry guys, technical issues. Okay. So guys, there's some technical issues with the case review, but don't worry, priority is handling. So what I will do is I'll just move on to the next section, right, which is the CPR coach. Next slide. Okay. Not this one. That's another slide. This one. Yes. Okay. Okay, so now this is a brand new concept for some of us, maybe most of us. This CPR coach, right? So before I start, I want to give credit again to Betsy Han and John Hopkins because some of the slides doesn't belong to me, belongs to them, right? So all credit to them, right? So this is some of the concepts. So this lecture is about 20 minutes talking about CPR coach and really the concept of why you want to use this person in the team. So this is a simple concept of what happens during a code, right? When you have a code, you need to start doing CPR ventilation. So that's the BLS portion of it. Okay. The team leader also have to take care of the ACLS and PLS, PALS is a pediatric, right? And then if you need to consult the family member, what happened? There's a family concept here that's going on. And also, if you're a team leader, you need to find out the reversible causes of fire patient fire fees. And if your hospital have the ECMO, you will also have to trigger the trigger the ECMO to come, right? So in fact, during the entire resuscitation, there's actually a lot of things to do. And if you're the team leader, you probably there's so many things to do, and the family is shouting to you up. Right. So the entire thing is what we want to do is we want to balance the ALS portion and also BLS portion here. So this is a very nice graph to show that hey, last time when we learned about the ACLS course, we memorized the algorithm, we memorized what is the shockable ECG region, we memorized what drug to give, we memorized what is the dosage, cardiac arrest, what is the flow, tachyarrhythmia, how to do it, arrhythmia, what to do. All these things belong to the portion speed. And we kind of like ignore the BLS portion of it, which is very important as well. But if we put in too much focus on the BLS portion of it, we kind of like ignore the ALS portion of it because the most important one is to find patient find peace, because you need to find out the reversible causes for the patients to have a better chance of survival, right? So too much of focus on the BLS is also a problem. So what we are trying to do here, right, together, is to actually balance out the BLS and also the BLS portion. Okay, so how to do it, what is it and how to do it? So I may reference this to John Hopkins again, right? This is a published paper by Elizabeth Hunt and Sophia team in what they call a resuscitation quality bundle called ACES 2. So what is this thing? So in her published study, she talked about, hey, if you want a good performance, a good resuscitation bundle, a good patient outcomes, it's just not about, having a coach or having a defibrillator with a feedback or having a good BLS. It's actually a whole landscape, right? Entire thing grouping together in what they call a code ACEs. And code ACEs can be explained in a few categories. Number one, having a CPR coach in your team. Number two, objective data evaluation, which is the data that I'm going to show you. Okay. And number three, action link phrases. So this is something like, oh, patient is not responding, not breathing. Okay, I'm going to start CPR. So there is an action that is linked to your findings to the patient. So the action link phrases. And number four is choreography and ergonomics. Choreography is about how you place the defibrillator, right? How you place the crash chart. Where do I stand as a team leader? Where do I stand as a progression? Where do I stand if I'm a CPR coach? So there's something to do with the choreography and ergonomics, right? And finally, scripting and simulation. So this one talks about repeating the practice, right? Repeating again, scripting all these things together and do a simulation. Right? So let's talk about the CPR coach role. So the CPR coach role has two main goals. The first goal is to help your team achieve the CPR targets. So you can see here is really a screenshot of the target that here it doesn't achieve and here it actually achieves the target, right? So that's one of the goals of CPR coach. But the second goal and true goal is actually to cognitively unload the patient's, unload the team leader's burden, right? The team leader has to think about so many things. And the CPR coach is here to unload the burden and take on the BLS portion of it. Okay, and this is really the three functions of the CPR coach. Number one, this person is a dedicated role. Number two, it has some objective data available for him to see. And number three is a singular focus on coaching a high quality BLS. Okay, I'll explain more on this one. Right. So this is a very good diagram that actually shows how the CPR coach helps the team leader. So what we have here is this person here. She is a team leader. Okay, she has to take care of so many things, starting from BLS, the ACLS algorithms, the drugs, finding out the H's and T's. And if there's ECMO, you need to do the ECMO. If you need to extend the family support, it also belongs to the team leader. So the team leader has the entire pyramid of things to do. But what we want to do is actually substitute out the very important part, the BLS part, into this person called the CPR coach to assist her, so that she don't have to worry about the BLS part and just focus on fulfilling the ACLS, the H's and T's, the ECMO, and also the support. Okay, so some key points for us to remember is number one, the CPR coach is not a team leader. The team leader is the commander. The CPR coach is the lieutenant, the assistant. Okay, number two, the leader should not be the CPR coach, right? So the leader cannot be coaching BLS and talking about ALS at the same time. And number three, the CPR coach reports to the leader. So this is important is that when the CPR coach, coaching is doing a good job, who will then report to the team leader saying, hey, team leader, we are doing a good job in terms of BLS, so leave it to us. So this is something, some of the key points about having a CPR coach team. Now, this is a very important part. So if you go to John Hopkins Resuscitation, they do have this kind of thing, what they call a CPR coach cognitively. So if I'm the CPR coach right now, right, and I'm doing the resuscitation, I would have this thing, a card with me And on this card is actually a checklist of the list of things I need to do. Okay, so let's go through one by one. What does the card show? Number one, the moment you step into the position as a CPR coach, you need to look for whether or not we have a step 2, whether or not we have CPR backboard attached to the patient, whether or not we have the solo pads on, and line of compression ready to take over the compressions. Number 2, place the end tidal CO2 immediately to the BPM or the ETT if the patient is intubated, right? Once you place this thing on this end tidal CO2 on the patient, you can actually confirm the patient's airway CO2 reading or waveform. And number 3, this has to be done together with the team leader to look at the patient's target. So what are the targets that we want to set for the patient? This is important because when you do a resuscitation, you might have a neonate, an infant, you might have adults, right? So we divide this in 3 categories, right? So we have the inches and centimeters in young, very small patient, and also like young infants or pediatrics, and also 8 years and above, like bigger kids, and also adults, so different parameters. And I want to show you, if you are in the ICU setting, you might have a central line, as a central line and also an arterial line. So if you have an arterial line and central venous pressure, you can actually use this to measure the coronary perfusion pressures, which I kind of like want to answer your question here. So remember the coronary pressure, we need to aim for more than 50 millimeters of mercury. Here we look at more than 20. And if you have the diastolic blood pressure, right in the arterial line, minus of the central venous pressure, you would have the CPP coronary perfusion pressure reading. Right, with this, you will then know whether or not the CPR quality is actually achieving the target. Okay, then at the bottom here is the compression to breath ratio. So it's really different from small kids and also bigger kids, right? Small kids will use 15:2, right? Bigger kids will use 30:2. So all this age category needs to be aligned with team leader. And moving down, you have compression breath. So 1 breath every 6 seconds for continuous compression. And tidal CO2, we want to aim for more than 30 millimeter mercury, ideally more than 35. And then there's other things like compression change every 2 minutes, okay, and zone pads on to identify the algorithm, defibrillate every 2 minutes, and also the electricity goes like pediatrics is this one, adults is this one, and then adrenaline and adrenaline administration every 3 to 5 minutes. And if this is an ECMO candidate, you activate the ECMO by end of second dose of the. So this is some of the checklists that the CPR coach can use, and also to guide the team, right? Not just the compressor and ventilator, but also the team leader on how we want to proceed with resuscitation. Yeah. Okay. So this is the coaching life cycle. So if I'm a CPR coach, the moment I see people, the team start doing CPR, the first thing I need to do is to access the BLS, whether or not they are hitting the target. Second is gather data. So what kind of data do we have? Like for example, if I have an end-tidal CO2, okay, I have an end-tidal CO2 data. If I have a CPP, right, then I have a CPP data. Then set and evaluate goals together. So if this pediatrics, I need to set the goal together with team leader, saying, okay, team leader, we have a 7-year-old child. Our target that will be 4 to 5 cm or 5 to 6 cm. Like our target rate will be 100, 120. So these are some of the things that we set goals together with the team. So if the team is meeting goal, there is a good quality resuscitation, right? Then it will go into the green color circle here, say, okay, team, we are hitting the targets, right? This is good. Let's reaffirm. Let's continue to do it, and let's optimize again and continue on the cycle. But if the team is not doing a good CPR, then is the time when you need to feedback to the person who is doing the compression and also the person who is doing the ventilation, so that they make adjustments so that they fit. Okay. I know it's quite a new concept. You probably don't really understand, but we will practice together on a CPR approach. Now, this is a very important slide showing to you that the ergonomics and choreography. So if you look at this slide here, all these people are actually very important and they are actually fixed in terms of their position. Okay, so we have this patient here with the CPR backboard. The team leader stands here, the maintenance is here, the documenter is here. Now, the very interesting thing I need you to understand is this defibrillator zone is actually beside the CPR coach. And the line of compressor is actually standing side by side or behind the first compressor here. So now the question comes for everybody. Why do I have to arrange this choreography in such a way that the compressor actually stands behind this person or side by side, but not opposite? Minimal interruption. Yeah, so let me show you. Okay. Can I have somebody very this up? Okay. So let's say if I start CPR here. Okay. And then my defibrillator is here. When I perform CPR, I am able to look at the defibrillator. When I get tired, okay, finally we'll start doing CPR from each side. So this is not a good ergonomic because it's not facing the defibrillator, right? So now priority is stop, you stand here. So now priority is my second compressor who's standing behind me. Okay. So when I start doing CPR, okay, I'm able to look at the defibrillator. Okay, priority, are you ready to change? Okay, ready? 3, 2, 1, stop. Okay. So now priority takes over the compression. And he's actually looking at the defibrillator as well. Okay. Yeah. So this is what is being practiced in Johns Hopkins, right? In terms of the ergonomics and also the choreography of this thing. So it makes sense that the compressor, instead of standing opposite to each other, they're actually standing behind or separated. Okay? Yeah. So now this is what we call the the surgical line. Yeah, boom is the you see this? You see this boom? Yeah. Sometimes the stuff happens in like you have a surgical light to the shine. Yeah, so that's a boom. Yeah. Okay. So next one is the what we call the ergonomics of the diamond and hyper. So in the whole resuscitation team, right? You see this poor person is actually the main character in the team. You have the team leader here, you have the CPR coach here, the compressor here, and the airway here. The four main persons in the team. And there's ergonomics of the diamond. Diamond means this person who is a team leader is able to look at all aspects, the compression, the ventilator, the monitor, and also the CPR coach. So there's a diamond level of communication. But there's also a smaller communication, which is what they call a triangle communication, that looks at these three persons here. So that is the lieutenant, the assistant general, coaching the compressor and also the airway person here. So this is what they call the ergonomics of the diamond and also the triangle. So this is important because if I am the team leader, if I want to know whether or not the team is hitting the target, I don't have to look at this person. I don't have to look at this person. All I have to do is just communicate with the CPR coach, and the CPR coach will tell me, hey, is the team is doing good? The CPR say yes, it's good. If no, let's improve. Right. So they kind of like simplify the communication so that the team leader don't have to shout at this person, they don't have to shout at this person. So this is the two-way communication between the CPR coach and also the team leader. Okay. So another thing about the ergonomic solution is that if you go to Johns Hopkins, right, you will notice this thing here, you see this blue color one here, that's the crash cart. But they don't put the defibrillator onto the crash cart. They actually separate off the defibrillator into a rolling cart that looks like this. Okay. And in this rolling cart, the defibrillator is put on top. And underneath this drawer are all these things like the multifunction pads, the pediatric pads, the gel, the pots of premature pulse, internal CO2, internal pads, right? and the defibrillator card is actually separated from the crash card. The reason behind this is because if I want to use the crash card equipment like the drugs, the airway, right? I don't have to, crash screen the defibrillator or block the defibrillator screen. The defibrillator is actually isolated from the crash card so that the defibrillator is constantly situated beside the CPR code and we can focus on the resuscitation using the defibrillator. While the person who is doing the IV and IO can use the crash card anytime. If you want to intubate, you can put the crash card and use the crash card. So that's the idea of separating the defibrillator from the crash card. And this is the whole idea of what we call autonomic solution. Okay, so this is some of the last slides already. Just want to show you that, is CPR coach proven to improve outcome? So this is a study by Adam Chang, right? And you see this very simple, intervention group which has a CPR coach, a control group that doesn't have a CPR coach. And the result is pretty straightforward. You see, no matter is that red, CCF, excellent CPR, the gray one is the without CPR coach, and the darker gray is the with the CPR coach. Every single parameter actually improved with the existence of the CPR coach in the team, and also decrease the pre-shock and also post-shock pause time and also peri-shock pause time. You see, without the coach is longer, with the coach is much faster. So all these parameters are important because it actually improves the patient's outcomes, right? And this, integrating the coach into this can actually improve every single parameter that's important for the patient survival. Okay, so that is the last slide for today. No more slides anymore, I promise you, right? So before I go into hands-on practice, any question on CPR coach?
Dia bentuknya ini kan tulisan kan ya.
Yes.
Bebas bu. Maksudnya biasa tuh.
Thing counts the interest in the car is that I will use the car, okay, and you run mock code simulation, okay? Later. Yes, there's a question. Yeah.
Just from is there an ideal time to reject the compressor? Or should we replace only when the compressor is high?
Okay.
It's a very good question. So, can you put in the slides again? The slides, yeah. The slides, okay. So, we have a question from Lina. Can you?
Yeah, so the question is there an ideal time to replace the compressor or should it be replaced only when the compressor is tired?
A very good question in terms of replacing the compressor. Okay, so if you look at this CPR coach cognitive aid, he says the compression change number 4 is every 2 minutes. Okay, so that is the ideal time for us to change the compressor. But of course, during a prolonged resuscitation, when a person cannot do a good quality CPR for 2 minutes, then this person needs to voice out to the CPR coach, say, "Coach, I'm tired, can we change?" So CPR coach will start to coordinate, say, "Okay, it's compressor 2, can you get ready? Okay, we change in 3, 2, 1, change." Yeah. So then after that, you continue on with the cycle of the compressor change every 2 minutes. Yeah, so I hope it answers the question. Okay, so if no more questions, can I have everybody up? Let's do simulation. This is my favorite session. I think it's Dr. Seto's favorite session also. Okay, so I need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I need 6 volunteers who knows ACLS. 6. Okay, so who are the 6 people? Okay. Okay. So can I have the 6 people to come forward this side? Okay. 6. Okay. So out of the 6 people, who wants to be the team leader? The team leader needs to know the ACLS algorithm. I'll give you an easy one. I'll give you a cardiac arrest, a VF. Yeah, don't worry. So who will be the team leader? Yeah. Okay. Okay, so this is team leader. Hands up. Okay, so you're the code blue ER team leader, okay? So next, I want 2 compressors. Okay, come. Yeah. Okay, compressor 1. Wish. Siapa dulu? You dulu ke you dulu? You dulu. So he's the compressor 1, you're the compressor 2. Okay. So no. I need 1 airway. Airway, okay? Yeah. So yeah. So okay. So you're the airway, right? So are you going to intubate or is the team leader going to intubate? You will, okay. You intubate. And the last one, so you will be the IV. Okay. Oh no. Sorry, you will be the CPR coach. Okay. So you're the CPR coach. Okay. So I will be the person who will control the defibrillator. So kalau you tak bisa guna, I can use. I will teach. I will control. You just give me the instruction. Okay. So you have the airway. You have the 2 CPR here, and then you have the CPR coach. And I forgot what's your room. No, not timer. Uh, IV medication, okay, and team leader, okay. So now, before you start, let me explain to you what the equipment you have. You have the patient bed here, okay. This is your patient, okay. So together here, airway, you have your ambu bag here, okay. And then you have your intubation. You don't have to intubate. You just pretend you intubate. Yeah, just pretend. Okay, you just pretend intubate. Okay, and then IV. You have the IV. Okay, I give you adrenaline now. Just pretend now. Okay. Okay. And after that, what else did I miss? Yeah, I think it's okay. Oh, check the airway. You need this. Okay. Yes. Okay. Oh, the CPR board is here. The step 2 is here. The defibrillator is here. And also the defibrillator pad is here. Okay. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna practice a simulation called the RCDP, Rapid Cycle Deliberate Practice. The concept of the RCDP is very simple. If I will just give you a scenario. You start the resuscitation, but I will stop you anytime, at any time. And I will tell you what is the things that you can improve, the mistake you've done, and then we do it all over again from the beginning. Do you understand? Okay. So now I need 2 more people to be my timer. It's very easy. The timer is very easy. Yeah. Okay. So one more. Okay. Okay. So yes. So this is secret. Yeah. So you need to help me to explain. Yeah. So okay, timer guys. We are going to make. So you okay? You ready? Okay. Hi guys. Okay. Just now I have some secret agenda with these two. Okay. So what we'll do is I will give you a very simple scenario so you don't worry. It will be a cardiac arrest. Okay, I will start with a VF, 2 VF, right, and then one non-shockable rhythm. Okay, so VF, shock 2 times, and then non-shockable rhythm. I will, yes, correct. You're right. Yeah, don't have to stop the CPR to look at the rhythm. Yes. Yes, correct. Okay, are you ready? So, okay. So all of you have to stand behind the room, behind, yeah, maybe here. Okay, yeah, yeah. Oh, you haven't come here. You're code blue team. Yeah. Okay, so ready, guys? Ready? Ready? Okay. So this is fun. Okay. I'm in the ER. I have Pache comes to me. He say, "Oh, he's not feeling well." Then suddenly he's not responding. I say, "Oh, Pache, what's going on?" No response. I check. Pulse, no breathing. Help! My Pache is not responsive. Help! Code blue team, help!
Lanjut CPR. Oke. Monitor sudah terpasang. Ya. Aku ngeliatnya gimana nih? Ambil lengkap ABD. Tolong ambil lengkap sini. Can we prepare the how many videos? 310. Langsung aja biar ini udah jadi. She's there. Okay. It's not like you can. Where's the button here? Basic. Yeah, check. Out here. Everybody there. Okay. Continue aja. Ayo boleh. Okay. Sorry. Okay. All right. Good. So let me just interview each and every one of you. Okay. So first of all, this is a safe zone. Okay, don't worry about your performance. Right, we are not here to judge you or anything. We are here to learn together. Okay, so the reason why I stop you is because I see there's a lot of room for improvement that we can improve together. Okay, so before I give my comments, let me just listen to the team leader. What do you think? What can we do? The equipment is too chunky for me. So
maybe I was concerned whether the first compressor was already tired because I think it's more than 4 cycles already. Okay. Maybe I think mungkin harusnya mungkin sudah ganti tadi the compressor. And then also you have to check outage. Yeah, how about the rest? Any comments?
I think I don't do my class as a core Cpr coach.
Maybe I give somebody for the sample. What do you think?
Familiarity with the device is very important.
Yes.
Which we spend a lot of wasting time to getting used to the device and that. And then ya ini kan baru ya. Beberapa orang nggak ngerti coach ngapain sih ini, rasa saling menunggu gitu. Dan yang sering jadi kendala ketika coba di GD adalah kompresor used to be distract with other things member. Padahal berarti cuma kompresi basic, tapi sekarang masuk ini. There's too many distractions.
Okay, good. So don't worry about all these things because at the end of the session, I can assure you you'll be an expert. Okay, so don't worry. So next, I actually asked my 2-person here to be the timer, right? What are the things that you time? Number 1, the time you start doing compression. Okay. Number 2, the time to first defibrillation shock. And number 3, the time to first adrenaline. But of course, you haven't go to the stage that I stopped you, so that's the noted timing, right? And for him, he's actually calculating the time of the CPR pause time before the shock. So the pre-shock pause time, and also the time that you after shock you go back to CPR. Okay, so let us hear from the timer. Okay.
For the first CPR is need time about 35 seconds.
Okay, so he says the moment your team come in to the moment you start doing the first CPR, it takes 35 seconds. So what does the guideline say? Less than 10 seconds. Okay, the second one?
The second one, time to force defib.
Okay.
About 1.5 minutes.
1.5 minutes. Okay, that's actually pretty good. There's a study say that the time to first shot should be between 2 to 3 minutes. So 1.5 minutes is actually good. So you feel the same time. So the third timing is adrenaline. We haven't reached the stage yet, so no third timing. Okay, what about the pre-shot pause time?
Waktu keputusan di 8 detik sampai dengan dilaksanakan adalah 13 detik.
Yeah. So he said you actually pause for 30 seconds for the rhythm before you deliver a shot. So what did the guideline say? Less than 10 seconds. So you're actually doing 30 seconds. 30 seconds, right? How about the post-shot pause time?
About the 3 seconds.
So after shot we start CPR. Okay. 3 seconds. Now, okay, so after shock, you only spend 3 seconds before you start doing CPR again. So that is good because they say it shouldn't be done. So now we know the timing. Okay, number 1, the first thing that you can improve is the speed of your response, the team to the patient, less than 10 seconds. You took 35 seconds. Okay, so when your team goes in the cardiac arrest room, okay, don't worry about any other things. Don't have to put down the bridge. Don't worry about the backboard. Don't worry about anything. The first thing you need to do is to start CPR first. That is the number 1 criteria. Number 1 criteria is to start CPR first. Okay. So when you start doing CPR, the team leader will assign you, okay, can you please help to get ready the CPR backboard? Can you please help to get ready the elbow bag? Can you please lower down the bed rail? Yeah, so this is something that you can assign your team so that you will get the CPR backboard, you will start getting the elbow bag, okay? You will actually start to help him while he's doing CPR to lower down the bed rail. Lower down the bed rail. Okay, and as once you lower down the bed rail already, the second compressor, you can actually prepare the CPR steps to for him to position himself to do a good CPR. So that is step one. Okay, so let me repeat again. When you come to the seat, CPR first. Okay, the bed drill, lower down the bed drill, and somebody take the CPR ready, and you will start doing the everybody. Okay, and I will get the certificate when you get ready. So everything will happen in harmonious synchronization. Everybody knows their role and responsibilities. Okay, that's step one. Step two, you need to know the patient rhythm. Okay, so when you prepare to move the patient, you prepare few things together. Okay, the first thing is the CPR board. The second thing is the placement of the electrodes. Already. Okay, so let's say you start with CPR. Okay. Thank you. Okay, get ready to back up. Okay, on the count of three, stop CPR, put on the platform, and also put on the pads. So you do everything in one action. Yeah. So once you say, okay, on the count of three, get ready. 3, 2, 1, stop CPR, do the regulation, put the platform, put on the pads. That is step 2. Okay. Once you finish step 2, the third thing is turn on the device and then look at the patient's diagram. Okay, so you go to turn on the device. Okay, you have a patient's diagram here now. It's a shockable rhythm. Once you analyze the shockable rhythm, the first priority is to shock the patient as soon as possible. Okay, so when you shockable rhythm, the team leader will tell us, yeah, coach, okay, coach, I'm going to deliver a shock. Can you organize this? Okay. So the coach say, okay, team, we are going to shock. Continuous CPR. Okay, start ready. Pause CPR, everybody's there. Conclude here. Stop. Okay. Shock deliver. Continuous CPR. Okay. So this is very important. Okay, and because when the patient first comes in, he is not intubated, so you need to count 30 compressions with 2 ventilations. So when you start doing CPR, you need to start counting 1, 2, 4, 30. Your role as a CPR coach, you need to tell them, okay, hey, we have an adult patient here. Okay, let's set the target 5 to 6 centimeters and 30 compressions to 2 ventilations. So we need to add in that as the CPR coach. So after intubation, after the airway goes in, we need to tell the team, okay, the airway is in. Right now, we need to change to continuous CPR and 1 breath every 6 seconds. So we need to count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, so all these things are all simulation and synchronization. Okay, you get the idea? Yes. Okay, for this one, because you're not familiar, I will preach. Okay.
And the preparation also doing by the CPR coach.
Yes, the common.
Ya. Jadi kompresor fokus kompresor ya. Nah, coach, how do you correct the quality by detail instruction? Kurang dalam dan cepat bukan. Misalnya 1,3,5 kurang target 4 ya, bukan target 5 ya. Jadi sudah ada. Kalau kecepatan baru dapat 90, nilainya kurang 110 ya. Jadi angkanya sebut. Jadi kompresor dia set the target inside the brain. Definite target. bukan mengawal kekurangan dalam sudah.
Okay, so now let's go back again. Okay, put all these things back. And you start again. That's fine. Daripada ya sama. Hollywood, ready? Action. Sampai bahasa Arab itu bahasa dia boleh store di kamar sampai siapa sama pembuat lagi dia mesti gantian ya happy dia masuk ya Yes, ya, kalau udah clear, lanjut lagi. Siang yang darah masuk. Thank you very much. Do you think the performance is much better from the first performance?
I think it's much better because we're familiar with the show. We prioritize the CPR over anything else.
That's very good. And what about the rest of the team next year from them?
Ada suaranya. Tadi mungkin karena saya belum nyoba jadi masuk bisa apa namanya? Jadi dalam mana? Ya harus kira camping.
Yeah. So the problem with the compression is that because the sensor actually detects the displacement, right? So if you're not doing a full chest record, you only do like this, it will tell you to push harder, push harder. So what you need to do is actually a full chest record so that you can have a bigger displacement. It can show 5 to 6 years. Okay, so I think overall it's pretty good. Just a little bit confusion in terms of when to reuse the day to do compression to do ventilation, and when you after incubate is 10 compression to 1 ventilation. Yeah. Okay. I think this is really good. So let's hear from our timer.
Okay, for CPR times and more than 23 seconds.
Oh,
improve, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Improve than the last 40 minutes.
Yeah. So he said the first CPR started at 23 seconds. Yeah. So 10 seconds improvement from the previous attempt. So it's good.
Okay. The defibrillation is 1 minute.
Oh wow. The time to first defibrillation is just 1 minute. So that's very, very fast. Yeah. Okay.
Membrane is 1 minute 10 seconds.
Wow, the time to first defibrillation is 1 to 5 minutes. Yeah, okay, that's good. What about the pre-shock pause time?
Pause time 4 seconds.
Wow, 4 second pre-shock pause time. Yeah, good.
2 seconds.
2 seconds. Wow. Yeah, so this is good, right? And you can see like, you know, a simulation like RCDP, right? Getting to know your role, what to do first, priority next, right? And also the timer can actually help you to decide, you know, whether or not you're doing good performance for the first few minutes. Yeah, that's very good. Yes, one comment?
Yes. Maaf bukan saya. Menentukan pasien itu menentukan tempat tidak langsung di RGP dulu sampai nunggu baru datang.
Family member.
Family, ya. Family mengapa pemerintah itu kaitnya dulu lagi. Belum tentu itu.
Biasanya sih datang kan cek dulu ya pulse. Alright. Jadi kalau untuk skenario code blue kita ikuti tetap ya. Tapi kalau memang settingannya di ruang rawat, maka asumsi pertama adalah pasti karena di jantung. So, tadi ada something interesting, Pak Tohir question. When do we interrupt our team leader? If we have something to
report like check pulse. Dia Tohir mau minta check pulse dong, ya. Tapi but the leader do not recognize the request. Yeah. Can interrupt. Can you interrupt the team leader?
Yeah, so this one has to do with communication, right? So my idea is that the pulse check needs to be started by the team leader, right? And how the team leader gets this pulse check information is the person who is doing the timer, right? So the timer, if you look at the ACLS algorithm, it's actually every 2 minutes, right? And just now towards the end, I actually put on a normal sinus rhythm, and I told the team leader, your end tidal CO2 is 35, right? So he should wait until the next cycle of 2 minutes, right? Or if you don't want to wait, you are quite confident because your end tidal CO2 already 35, then you can stop and ask for a pulse check. So when you do pulse check, there's two placements you can put. One is of course the periodic, right? The next one also you can put parallel. So instead of one person doing a pulse check, you can one periodic and one time. Right. If both also feel a pulse, then you can quite confirm. And the end tidal CO2 reading will also help you to confirm as well. Yeah.
One thing, the role of team leader and CPR coach.
Confused, right?
Confused,
Yeah. That's a very
if they sequence longer than 15 minutes, so I think the team leader should be focused on the 5H5T-nya ya. Jadi let it to the CPR coach to do the high quality CPR, and team leader think about the cost of the rest. Jadi tim leader udah tinggalkan aja, biarkan ke coachnya yang ngerjain. Kita pikirin keluarga sudah ada yang hubungin belum, ya. Ini kenapa sih tiba-tiba tidak rest? Terus DPJP sudah dikasih tahu atau belum? Code blue team sudah terlapor atau belum? Misalnya, kalian time matching wilayah ada ya di Word, code blue team in Word and central code blue team udah dihubungin atau belum? Jadi biarkan itu tim leader, nanti kompresi high quality compressionnya lead it to the coach and the person who do the compression. Jadi tim leadernya mikir yang lain aja. Jadi don't take other person job. Okay?
Yeah, so I totally agree with that, and I think it's very good. So another thing is team leader. Remember the choreography of a diamond triangle. So your position should be here, right in front, right out the plate. Okay, the CPR coach is here together with the team, and the line of the compressor is here, and the airway is there. Okay. So if you want to know about the quality of the DLS, right, you just have to ask CPR coach. Is my team doing a good job? That's all. The coach will actually look at this one, and she will actually coach the compressor and then use. So that is okay. Next, let's go. So you can no, if cannot, it's okay. Yes. If God is covered, you got yeah. That's good. Okay. Sure. Yeah, let's look at this one. Okay, so we are entering final few minutes of our session today. I just want to teach you about this program, what we call the case review program, right? So if you are using a Zoom distributor, you can actually pull out the data from the distributor, right, and put it on this program. And together we can look at the performance data. Remember, I teach you, I told you during my lecture the 4 tools that you should utilize. Real-time audio visual feedback, CPR code, debriefing. Right. So this is the part where the debriefing comes in. So if you look at this one here, move away the mouse. Okay. So this one here is the time we start. This is the time where we end. Okay. And then this is the yellow zone. So the yellow zone is the time where we start doing CPR. So that is why it's called a CPR period. Okay. And then you notice there's the gray color zone here. So gray color zone here is the CPR pause period, right? So this is one pause period, this is another pause period, this is a pause period, and it's also pause period. Okay, let's go up a little bit. Okay. No. Go down a bit. Yeah. So this one here, the second row, is the CPR target depth that I set for the team. The target I put the AJ guidelines 5 to 6 cm, and this coincides with this blue color line here. This blue color line that is going across this line here. And then you see like a lot of bars that is going down. So every single bar represents every single CPR that you do to the sensor, right? And if you look at the bars, there's two colors. One is the gray color here, and one is the blue color here. So blue color means you're actually hitting the target of 5 to 6 centimeters, okay? And the gray color means you're not hitting the target. So if the gray color bar happens before the blue color line, that means you're shallow, not deep enough, okay? Right, if the gray color bar is like after the blue color bar, so that means you're pushing too deep, okay? So can I have the first compressor just now raise up your hand? Who is the first compressor? First compressor, Lugan. First one. So I can see that your compression at first is not deep enough here, right? Here is not deep enough, right? Here is also not deep enough. But later on, I tell you that, hey, full test record. Then you see like the compression becomes very, very good at this side, right? And hitting the target that's very good. And the next row here shows you the chest compression target rate. So the rate is following the guidelines 100 or 120, okay? And then this bar is the target zone. And every single dot represents every single CPR that you do. And you see a lot of time both of you is actually hitting the target zone, which is good. Only certain times you get tired. I don't know, this is slower, right? And then here maybe he is a little bit excited, he's faster, right? But generally you're hitting the target 93% of the time. So this is very good. Right. That's good. So there's an interesting parameter in what we call a 64% in target. So what does it mean? So let me ask you a question. If I do a 100% in target for target rate, I'm constantly hitting 100 to 120, but my depth is only doing 3 to 4 cm. Is this a good CPR? No. You need to have both depth and rate hitting at the same time to generate good hemodynamics, right? And that is why if you look at these two rows and the third row here, in here, this person, the first compressor is doing a very good job in rate, but he doesn't hit the target. That is why he has nothing here. Okay, and if you look at this portion here, he's doing perfect CPR, hitting the depth, hitting the rate. That is why he's have a very good in target resistance here. Yeah, so that is the concept that we want to instill. And finally, here, this one is the release velocity trend, right? This shows to you, how fast you release the hand away from the patient's head. So if you look at this one here, it's actually falling in the slow and also medium category. So this is perhaps one single aspect that you need to improve, because if you can do a fast release velocity, you can improve the patient's survival. Okay, so let's go down. Right. Remember I talked to you about chest compression fraction. The guidelines say needs to be above 60%. So this is your chest compression fraction, and it's above, it's 78%. So kudos to the team. That's very good. Some of the concept is being calculated here as 21%. Right. So over here, the concept is pretty simple. The more blue color you see, the better it is. So the CPR pauses under 5 seconds is 66% of the time. 5 to 10 seconds is about 33%, and anything more than 10 seconds is 0%. Wow, so that is really, really good. Right. And the level of depth variability you see in target is 66%, and 33% of the time you're too shallow. Right. The target rate is 91% is in target, a little bit too fast, 4%, and just a little bit too slow, 4% as well. So let's go down again. Okay, So this defibrillator can also check on the power on time. The moment you put on the pads, the moment that you put on the pads and the time to first compression, time to first shock, and total time to CPR as well. But what is important to show is the CPR pauses. So you actually have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pauses in the scenario, and the longest pause time is 9.57 seconds, which is not more than 10 seconds. That is good because you're following the guidelines, right? Yeah. And when you look at the pre-shot pause time and also the post-shot pause time, in average, you're just pausing 3 seconds and also post-shot also 3 seconds. Right. So this is very good performance. Yeah. Right. So all in all, when I look at this is a very good performance, right? But I believe we can definitely improve more in terms of the CPR depth and also release velocity. But other than that, I think your team did very good. And Rafa on the spot. That's true.
Jadi kemarin kualitas yang kita kerjakan kita hanya bisa menilai kemampuan kita kalau ada alat ukur yang benar. Dan kita tahu kualitas kita. Kalau pertanyaan itu apakah akan mengembalikan meningkatkan harapan hidup pasien? Faktor sama. Kalau bisa kendalikan.
This one just now.
Jadi kita harus kontrol teknik kompres. Kita baikin ini biar urusan ini dapat kita terus. Mereka kan kalau kita mengerjakan seperti ini di tempat masing-masing, teman-teman yang balik dari sini lihat agak aneh ya, kita mau aja kurang apa nih gitu ya, minimal kalau lagi nggak ada alasan di pasar. Saya tahu di dunia itu baiknya empuk, nggak bisa dia most importantly billboard because United is so soft, and then tuh linknya mesti ada. Nggak semua orang sedikit player, nggak semua orang. Beberapa perawat ada itu walaupun tenaganya kuat. Jadi terus untuk mengenai efek kepada belum, apakah kita punya alatnya? Alat ini ada, ini penghapusan 12 satu RSM ya di sini ada semua. Tapi petnya karena itu dari 22% sekarang udah pakai fire, yang tahu dari mana, dari kepala ruangan, dari BCL udah pasti ganti yang udah rusak juga. Sehingga apakah akan ada lagi tergantung ini teman-teman. Kalau di BD infonya B ya, ada lagi nih mungkin itu belum tahu dapat sampai. Nah akan susah. Like dokter ini asmi, how do you measure your quality by you? Kita merasa bagus ternyata dari mereka bagus. Mungkin misalnya saya ngerasa soalnya termasuk yang bagus nih kalau JP ya untuk negara. Tapi ternyata ada masalahnya bilas. Kalau saya bilang kok bilas kan? Makin bagus ya. That's good. Thank you.
I think out of time, right? So I think it's close to 12 PM already, right? And it's also towards the end of the session, right? So before I end, just any last round of question from anybody, right? Do you find this session useful? Yeah. Oh, thank you so much. Yeah, this is some of the knowledge that I learned from US, like Professor Han and many other professors, right? And I'm here to just get all the information together with you, right? And I hope you learn a new thing or two, right? And I hope you implement into your department, right? This I'm gonna say thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you so much. So hopefully. Oh yeah, good photo. Come. Yes.
It's like it's like first time. Yes. Okay. How do we yeah. Lagi. Ya. Everybody, small request. Everybody, please wait for a while. Yeah, so, just give me a moment. Okay, so if you can see the QR code on the screen. Oh, how to put full screen? Cannot see it. This one, so full screen. I think you can just like that. Okay.
为什么还是这样呢？
不知道。Okay. Everybody, just a small request. Scan the QR code. Put 1-2 minutes already of me, so that it can prove on my future class. Thank you so much, everybody, for helping me on this one.
And then the freeze. All of it. Okay. So, before you go on, some of the people who did the CPR just now, right? Who is the three people who is for the CPR? Can you come out? Ah, yes, I remember you. Yes. And one more. Is it you? Ah, yes. Ah, yes, please. I like the team leader part. I think that okay. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Bagi sertifikat sampai perlu diberikan kembali terkait dengan bisa hubungi saya. Itu tidak bagi dari sertifikat kami tidak dikatakan. Memang jadi kami terus semoga dapat memberikan sedikit informasi yang bermanfaat bagi Bapak Ibu. Gitu ya. Terima kasih sekali lagi atas waktu dan perhatiannya. Semangat, selamat berbuah kalau masih tugas ya. Terima kasih. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Baik, ini form satu lagi boleh? Diisi. Nggak ada internet ya,
Belum dibuat lagi QR. Share ya di grup ya.
Oke, sudah diisi semua? Kalau sudah, terima kasih atas kehadiran teman-teman. Jadi, sudah sampai sini saja. Terima kasih atas kehadirannya. Semoga bermanfaat dan saya teruskan ke teman-teman sekalian. Saya tutup. Selamat siang. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Saudara.